Once you begin to learn the name of a few birds coming to your backyard, they now are individuals with names, and they are associated with certain kinds of habitats. And so I think it's like dropping a rock in a pond. The ripples keep going out and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The emphasis that I've had most of my life has been in the field of ornithology. Ornithology is the study of birds. I'm Dr. Fred Alsop. I teach at East Tennessee State University. I'm a professor of biological sciences there. Well, I think growing up as a farm boy in Kentucky, you're always familiar with wildlife, mostly from a hunting and fishing standpoint. But I guess the first time I really focused on birds, I was probably about 6 years old. Wintertime, came into the kitchen where my grandfather was looking out the window, and I peered out to see what he was looking at, and he had spread some corn outside, and there were birds feeding on it. I'd never seen him feed anything except the cows and the team of mules or the pigs, and that was the first mark that I thought birds are different somehow and special. But the real way I got into them was as an undergraduate student at Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, inspired by a new professor that we had who came there who could identify birds as far away as he could see them, as far away as he could hear them. That struck my competitive nerve, and I thought I wanted to see how that worked, and I've been hooked ever since. People learning about birds in their own area gives them a vested interest in their areas. So if I can teach students across the state about birds that occur in Murfreesboro and Nashville and Cookeville and Johnson City, instead of trying to tell them about birds that occur in the deserts of the Sierra or the tropical rainforests of Brazil, they're going to have a much more fixed interest, and they can see these birds. They can go out and see them for themselves, and hopefully that will help to build an interest in conservation and in wildlife. Tennessee is a wonderful place to look at birds. It's not very far from the north-south borders, but from east to west it goes over 400 miles. And across those 8 physiographic regions you get lots of different kinds of birds, from those that are more familiar birds along the Mississippi Flyway in West Tennessee to the mountains of East Tennessee. And East Tennessee really gives you a great diversity because the higher elevations have birds that are more northern in their characteristics and in the places that they inhabit. And then in the valleys at the bottom of the mountains, you've got southern birds, and you get a nice mix between the top and the bottom. So of over 400 species that have been recorded across the state, more than 300 occur in the 5 easternmost counties of the state. Often a hook into learning bird sounds or any sound in the environment is to have some kind of word phrase to go along with it. And the word phrases are called mnemonics. So you hear the sound of the wood thrush that's been singing there, that's singing now. If I say that bird says eole, it goes up the scale. And then it says eole, it comes down the scale. Once you learn eole, eole, and then you attach that to that wood thrush song, now you know the wood thrush song. So barred owls say, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? But they're regional dialects. A lot of the ones in the north don't have the you all on the end, I'm sorry to say. They're missing out. If you cup your hands a little bit so that you have a resonator, and we'll try to do this. Is the basic call. One of the nice things about being in higher education is that you get a lot of students coming to you, and you get some who really think the field biology is a cool thing, and they stand out among the crowd. They're going to try to make a profession out of that, either teaching or doing research. And students like Mark Dunaway, for instance, who has a great ear for sound. I'm currently working with Mark and others on a definitive state bird book. We're one of the few states that doesn't have a state bird book, and we're going to make it different from other bird books that are out there by putting interactive DVDs with bird sounds and video in the back of it, and having an e-book to accompany it that will have perhaps more educational impact than the textbook itself. One thing about birding is that you want to see birds in other places, and the traveling sort of takes hold of you. You see places that a lot of other folks don't see in those states because you're going to very specific habitats to see them. So I've gotten to see all 50 states. I've done 20 countries, mostly leading groups, so that I'm seeing new birds as they are seeing new birds. I've got a group of 10 people, counting my wife and myself. We're going to do 17 days in Bolivia, which is a country I haven't been in. It's one of 2 landlocked countries in South America. And the bird checklist for the country is 32 pages long. So there's something like 16 or 1700 species of birds in the country. So this will be a first. If I can get 145 or so species in that country, it will put me over 4,000 for the planet. And that's one of those little mile markers, 40% of the world's birds, something I didn't think I would ever get out of Kentucky, and I can tell you why. I made it to Eagle Scout. One of those merit badges was called Bird Study. I looked at that badge and you had to be able to identify 50 species of birds, and I said there's no way in heck that I'm going to be able to do that. And I never got that merit badge. I think I may qualify now. After I spend time with a class or with a group birding in the field, I want them to understand that I'm enthusiastic and passionate about what I'm doing, and being in the field is a privilege. And I enjoy sharing that privilege with them. But if they're turned on a little bit, enough to buy a field guide or to go birding again, or to seek out some friends, or just to see what's happening in their backyard, put a hummingbird feeder up or put another bird feeder up and see where it goes from there. Birding has come a long way. It has come from a specialized field with a few naturalists participating to a very acceptable form of recreation around the world. And it's very enjoyable, or folks wouldn't be doing it. We can't fly like a bird, but we can sure go out and see birds and learn about them, and it's fun.